what's happening. I think they did some kind of interface update and I'm almost there. What's happening? Well, welcome everyone to Can We Chat Here. Mrs. Jones, can you check to see if we're showing up on Facebook?
We're live.
We are live. All right. Welcome to Can We Chat Here. Sheila Abram, and I am from still sunny California. It's still sunny out here. I'm being joined by my beautiful co-host,
Miss Maxine Jones on the East Coast. Well, it's dark here. Well, welcome to Can We Chat Here? And we always share that Can We Chat Here is about our dreams, our goals, our stories, and our journeys. It's always our goal to bring value and content to our Facebook family and friends. Well, tonight's topic is called The Power of the Union. And we have three very powerful gentlemen here, very special guests who will be talking about the success and challenges of building a phenomenal team. And the team is known as the Union. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to Can We Chat Here, Mr. Rodney Roach, also known as Mr. Amazing, Mr. Cameron Gamble, also known as Mr. Outstanding, and Mr. Kiven Robinson Jr. Welcome to Can We Chat Here? Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this evening.
Miss Maxine Jones, can you explain why we are not seeing Mr. Amazing's camera on the screen right now?
Amazing is in his car. He's on the way home. He should be there within the next 5 minutes or so. They had a very successful meeting that they have every Monday night. So he got in the car and he's booking home. Already talked to him, but we want him to drive safely. So right now we just see this wonderful picture of him, but he will be live shortly. Okay?
Actually, we don't quite see the picture yet, but we'll see him in a moment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we have a lot to talk about this evening. So we want to get started with the questions for our esteemed guests. Welcome, gentlemen. We are so glad to have you on this evening.
Thank you. We're honored to be here.
Excited.
It's an honor having you. I have to put the specs on. I'm going to kick off with it's not so much of a question right now. Yeah, but I want each of you to tell us a little bit about your background and how you all met. We'll start off with Mr. Cameron Gamble.
Okay, so I will say that a little bit about, from a background perspective, been in the industry of networking now for, I guess, about seven years. Professionally speaking, I am a corporate trainer, and also my background is in the financial industry. So spent a great deal of time either teaching people about finances, working with people around their finances, or teaching companies how to talk to their employees about finances. And I had the opportunity of working with these gentlemen in another organization that we were all a part of. And so we've known each other now for, I guess it's been about maybe five years or so. Mm-hmm. And so these guys have obviously transcended from just being business partners to a band of brotherhood that we've got here.
Exactly. Okay. So you've given actually the answer for everybody. Mr. Kiven Robinson, you want to add anything to that, sir?
Yes. Well, a little about myself. By profession, I'm an accountant and a tax professional. You know, I've been in the industry of, or just in the lane of finances and everything related to that for close to 20 years now. As far as the industry of affiliate marketing, relationship marketing, or whatever you want to call it, almost about the same length of time, about 18, 19 years. And as Mr. Gamble stated, the three of us came together in a previous program roughly 5 years ago. And, we just been, thick as thieves since then. And that's one of the things I love about this industry. Beside from the other aspects, the financial aspects, the relationship perspective is something I love about this industry.
You know what, Mrs. Jones, let me just jump in here because we are kind of waiting for Mr. Roach to be able to get on his laptop to answer that question. We might even circle back to him with that. But Mr. Robinson, I have a question for you. You're in the tax, niched, tax expert, finance expert. What appeals to you where network marketing is concerned? What is it about that has you involved with network marketing, being at the professional level that you're at?
Well, it was a couple of reasons. First of all, I was exposed to the industry, right out of the gate when I was about 18, 19 years old. I've always been a natural go-getter and also just looking for the ultimate goal that we talk about so often, which was freedom, financial freedom. You know what I mean? I came from a background of hardworking grandparents and things of that nature. And I saw that they didn't necessarily accumulate the wealth and reach the goals that they wanted to reach, doing it the traditional way. So I understood I had to do something different. Then when you add to the fact being in the arena of taxes and things of that nature, I understood that one of the biggest advantages in the tax game is having a home-based business. It just made so much sense. You know what I mean? And, so I know different business partners and friends of mine who, they teach and educate on what we call income shifting and shifting from, your typical W-4 employee to your 1099 and investor. So all of that made sense to me at an early age. You know what I mean? Because I was exposed to that industry in that area.
Well, that's excellent. And Mrs. Jones, you do see I skipped down to my second question as a fill-in. So I think I want to ask you, Mr. Gamble, the exact same. With your professional career, being a corporate trainer, being on that level, being in finance, we know you're paid very well in that arena. What makes you look at network marketing and for so long?
Well, that's a great question, and I appreciate you asking that. There are a couple of things. One, when I started working at Merrill Lynch, they taught us two things. They said that the first thing that you have to understand, there are two types of people who earn interest and people who pay it. And you have to decide which one you're going to be. So that really just sort of opened my eyes to the fact that there's an entirely different way of processing information and becoming wealthy, and more importantly, in staying wealthy. So as I started working with ultra high net worth individuals, I learned the second part of that is, in order for you to not only create wealth, but to stay wealthy, you have to have what's called leverage, meaning you have to be able to continually generate income long after you stop working, because we know at some point the end will come where you will not physically be able to work. And that's why they call it income. So I learned at a very quick pace that you gotta have something that continues to work even when you cannot. And that's how you set up the next generation, because that's what the wealthy teach their children. So this made perfect sense to me, because I knew that the average person could get in and didn't take a major capital outlay. Just made perfect sense.
Well, Mrs. Jones, we have Mr. Amazing.
Amazing is here. Woo-hoo.
Would you like to ask him the first question?
What I wanted you to share with us, tell us a little bit about your background and how did you meet all these wonderful gentlemen here? Because you guys, I know you sit down and break bread together and there is a bond, but how did you all meet? And tell us a little bit about your background, sir.
Wow. Great question. Certainly a pleasure to be on this platform. Oh wow! Number one, I'm one of those guys that just have been unemployable, right? So I've been a nomad over the years, trying different endeavors, different businesses, and I never took a look at network marketing. At that time, I just never thought it was for me. I was always introduced to it, but never really looked into it. Into a young lady that I would happen to be doing some real estate and because I did own a construction company at the time, said you need to seriously take a look at this. And so once I did, I ran across that gentleman there, Mr. Outstanding. Matter of fact, I happened to fall on his team. And what I really admired most about him when I met him is that he was a very polished individual. And the way he would present in front of the room, he made me feel as if hey, maybe I can one day do that. And I said that to him. I said, I'd like to one day try that. And he said, why not? And so he actually gave me my first shot at giving a presentation in front of the room. But one thing I had to do, I had to make sure that I didn't come in there with my jeans and my hoodie on. I had to emulate some form of success.
And you must look professional.
Yes, yes. And so I just kind of patterned everything that he would share. And, Cam, he definitely is one who doesn't mind sharing and pouring into you. And so ever since then, we've been doing some great businesses together. We've all connected and became close from doing a lot of personal growth and self-development trainings. And that just leads us up to where we are today.
Okay. So would you say, Mr. Roach, that because your professional level personally, you still own, I think, a business privately.
Yes.
What makes you, like, you were introduced to network marketing, you were mentored, but what made you really see this is something viable, that no matter what I'm doing, what other personal brick and mortar business that I may be, running successfully, I'm still going to be involved with the network marketing arena or field? What made you see another opportunity and go for it?
I got tired. I mean, that's the reality of it. I got tired. And all my businesses always depended on my efforts. And, you hear Mr. Robinson say it all the time. It's all about leverage. And so I saw that there was a way that I could leverage other people and be able to earn a substantial income doing it. And once my eyes was open to it, I mean, I was hooked onto the line and you couldn't get me off.
Wow.
So that was the reason, yes.
So I think I'm going to circle back to the second question was, and I'm going to start with you, Mr. Roach. How were you introduced to Karatbars International, and how long have you been involved with Karatbars and our Karatbars family of companies?
Okay, so interesting enough, a gentleman I used to sell insurance with about maybe 15, 20 years ago had introduced me to Karatbars. And he said, you know what? I know you were dibbling and dabbling in some stocks and some investments. Had you ever taken a look at gold? And I said, you talking about like a chain? And he said, look, man, I don't know. All I know is these people getting gold. Take a look at the information. And then so I was open. I had also been dabbling a little bit with cryptocurrencies, and I used to mess with Cam all the time. I said, Cam, look, I showed him, look, I made a little money with this crypto, and and he was like, man, it's a fad, right? Fad. And I said, I don't know, Cam, it might be a fad, but it seems to be doing some good things for me. And so after I got in, that was June of 2017, June 6, 2017, when I joined Karatbars. And that gentleman today's name is Andre Bearstop. I think Miss Sheila Abrams did a 3-way call with him as well. So yes, that's how I made my way over to Karatbars International.
Wow. It's such a small network networking world. Dr. Sergio Rizel, he called me up and he said, Miss Abram, this had to be 3 years ago, right around there. He goes, Miss Abram, will you have time to do a 3-way, with a prospect? He's a real estate agent. And I know you used to be a real estate agent, because I did. I had my license. I sold real estate part-time while I worked for the post office. And I said, why, sure, I will. So he called me up, and Dr. Rizel did the 3-way call with Mr. Bearstop, and it was a very, very productive call. I think he was going out of the country for a little bit, maybe on vacation. I can't quite remember. But it was just ironic how later on I found out, oh my goodness, that one 3-way call was so successful. And out of that, just the exposure of the level of expertise that is a part of our world of Karatbars, that is so incredible. And now I'm learning from all of these professional gentlemen myself. So it just all turns around. It all comes around. So Mr. Gamble, who introduced you? Well, I think we already know, but go ahead and say it again. Who introduced you?
So what I will say is so Mr. Roach, Mr. Amazing, as he politely just rolled me under the bus, like, yeah, I used to talk to Cam about it. He said it was a farce.
So Cam said it was a scam.
Yeah, well, I never said scam. I was very clear about that. So I'll just give you sort of a quick story, really quickly. So Mr. Roach is just really phenomenal with what he just sort of illuminated, which is the art of the drip. He is a person that just does not care about introducing anybody to an opportunity. And as he stated, because he was a part of my team in the other company, he was able to show me that there were people that we were both familiar with that weren't necessarily builders or networkers, if you will, but they were actually having some success. So he would just constantly come back with that smiley, passive aggressive way, like, hey, somebody made some more money. Hey, more money is happening. Hey, more growth is happening. And so because I don't subscribe to upline, downline, sidelines, like, the reality is that's one of the reasons why I love this business, because it's not based on pedigree or pedestals or backgrounds or colors or persuasions or ethnicities. I mean, nothing. And so if somebody is a part of your organization or your team, you've got nothing on them except that you just got involved first. And so I always tell people that anybody who will listen, I'll tell them one of the most expensive things that you can own is a closed mind. And so anybody that is in earshot of me, if it's making sense, I'm going to listen to it. And so that's what Mr. Roach did. He just kept, as we call it, dripping on me about this company and what it's doing and how it's changing lives. And eventually I was like, this is crazy. I mean, for me not to be on board. And so that's what I did. I just buckled up, laced up, and jumped on in.
And
Wow. That's a wonderful nugget. I'm also monitoring the Facebook chat line, going on all our wonderful comments, and we're just really lighting up Facebook. Mr. Robinson, who introduced you to the world of Karatbars, and how long have you been in?
I think it was about, I want to say, I guess summer 2017. Mr. Roach again, Mr. Roach strikes again. We were already, like I said, partnered in a previous program. Like Cameron said, it really doesn't have anything to do with upline, downline. Directly, I was not in the same organization as Mr. Gamble and Mr. Roach, but Mr. Roach was someone that I highly respected. An ultimate, professional. And outside of that, he and I had already started to get into the cryptocurrency space, even before Karatbars. So again, someone I highly respected. So with that, I had no, option but to take a look at the information. And like Mr. Gamble said, I myself am a very open-minded individual, you know what I mean, in this industry. And maybe that's just me being a student of the industry as well. I've been in a couple programs and have turned down the opportunity to participate in a ton other. But with that being said, I've always looked at different aspects of different programs just to know the benefits and how my program measured up. You know what I mean? So I'm just an extremely open-minded person. So taking a look at Karatbars, I mean, I'm only a little upset that I didn't start running full speed right away. You know what I mean? But once I truly dove into the information, it was a no-brainer. I mean, a complete no-brainer from the aspect of I personally had tremendous success in other programs, but one of the highlights of the Karatbars platform was that I saw that it was a program that not only I could benefit from and have that same level of success that I had and enjoyed in other programs, but I knew that the bulk of the team and the people that trusted me with leadership could have that same success as well.
Wow. That's excellent.
2017, on average, all of you have really not been in Karatbars that long to come to this exceptional team union. And I've heard each one of you, I think I've heard each one of you say, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with a team. And you have built one awesome team. I love that phrase. That just resonated with me. Each one of you has said that at different times on different platforms. And that is really a rhema word, really.
We truly believe it. We truly believe it.
We do. And if I could just jump in quickly with that to expound, that's hence where the name The Union came from. As Mr. Robinson alluded, we were not on the same team when we were in another company. And so because we were coming over as a group into the Karatbars experience, we wanted to do a couple of things. We wanted to make sure that everybody who may have come from the previous company, even though we may have been on different teams, understood that it was one team, one dream. And then we also wanted to embrace all of the other people that were already in Karatbars in our local area, even prior to us. And so we wanted to create a name and a brand that was inclusive of the people, for the people and about the people, and hence the name The Union, because we wanted it to be just, again, just a big diaspora of leaders. And so we understood the dynamic of team leadership as opposed to just leadership. And that was the thing that we wanted to embrace, and why we thought The Union as a brand, as a name would be appropriate for us.
And I have a question for you. Now, you all are businessmen with separate careers. How does Karatbars fit into your professional schedule? Who wants to go first?
I'll jump in first.
Yes, sir.
Well, for me, and this goes for all three of us. All three of us are fathers. We have families, and this kind of goes a little bit into the training that we often do with the team. I make networking a part of my daily life. So becoming a professional networker is something that a lot of us have within us. We just don't realize it. So I'm one of those people that I despise excuses, because I understood early on what a lot of the obstacles that people give us all the time in the industry. I was a single dad, a full-time single dad, not just weekends. I'm talking full-time, talking, racing my son to the football games on Saturday, racing my daughter to a dance class when she did decide to dance. And, all of those other things involved, having a full-time job, working, for a separate tax company, just having a lot of things going on. But I understood that I didn't want to have that same schedule and time constraint for the rest of my life. I knew if I didn't do something different, then that was going to be my life. And I wanted better for my kids and my family. So I just made it a deliberate effort to incorporate networking into everything that I was already doing. And I felt like doing it in that manner, made it easier. The excuses were out of the way. And a lot of times, like I said, it was, something that I was already doing. I just wasn't getting paid for it.
You're actually networking as you do life, really.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And for me, it became easy. And actually, I'm at a point now where this is probably what I do 75% of the time, in my business 25% of the time. But I know I had to be around people who would say words like diaspora, you know, like Cameron Gamble. And I knew if I could network with polished folks like that, as I put things into play with my business, you know, because let's be honest, you tend to act like the people that you associate with.
Mm-hmm.
And so by associating with folks like Mr. Robinson and Mr. Gamble and a host of others, you know, I just became better. And as I became better, it just wasn't good at networking. It also improved in my business life for my traditional business. And so I was able to take the things that I learned in networking and apply it into my daily life and business, and then also into my home life as I've been dealing even better with my girls and my wife. I'm a better husband, I'm a better father because of networking. So that's how I've been able to put those things together for myself.
Wow. I like that.
And then I'll just cap it with saying, Rodney, I can't wait till we get off this. You know, I got you. I'm coming for you. All right, my friend.
Coming for you.
Yeah. So one of the things that you learn as you start to become better at this, and specifically if you're trained in this industry, you start to learn systems, and you start to really understand that most people, the reason why a lot of people cannot incorporate this into their business life is because they go about it the wrong way. You know, one of the things that we teach in our system of training is how to effectively pique people's interest and then sort of pass them along to a system. And that's sort of counterintuitive to what we're taught in the corporate space. You know, in the corporate space, we're taught to talk through it, to know as much as we can. That creates job security. But within this industry, you start to learn you have to become efficient with your time. And so the systems that we learn, the system that we therefore now teach, we show people how to effectively manage the amount of people that they're engaging with, and manage them through an entire funnel process, where it's not like this thing you've got to sit down and have hour-long conversations all day with people. And unfortunately, that's the way most people start out, because there is no formalized training in this industry that really shows people the most effective and efficient way to do it. So once we learn that, it's easy for us to go out and sort of reach our numbers and reach peak capacity incorporated within our day.
Now I'm going to kind of jump to this next question, and because you kind of alluded to it in this last question. How important is it for you, your team, and even your team's philosophy, is it to develop leaders? To develop leaders, not just build a big organization, but the union is setting out to develop leaders. So can you kind of talk about that for a bit? Whoever would like to jump in first.
Yeah, I'll jump in and then I'll yield. I won't stay on this long, because we can all obviously just spend a great deal of time on this particular subject, because we believe in this wholeheartedly. I think that's one of the secrets to success in this industry, and one of the reasons why Mr. Roach's team and this collaboration that we've put together has had a great deal of success so early on in our tenure, is because of that. It's very intentional. It's sort of, as I call it, the ICR. So we identify, we cultivate, and we recruit specifically in leadership. So, and when I say leadership, it's not just one aspect. The reality is, I can do what you cannot do, and you can do what I cannot do, but together we can do great things. And so we're very intentional about finding people, plugging them in, and having them all do different things, but eventually just raising up their level of expectation and leadership. And then once you do that, you can create duplication, and then you can be off doing some other fun things, and your group is still growing beyond your control.
Wow, excellent. Mr. Amazing, would you like to chime in on that?
Sure. I mean, I love the topic when you talked about building leaders. I mean, we take people through even another form of schooling, you know, whereas that, you know, they're going to get maybe their bachelor's degree in persistency. You know, they'll get their master's degree in consistency, and then, you know, they get their doctorate in courage. And so we want to take people through those phases because it's important that when you have a business like this, you're kind of thrown sometimes into a leadership position.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't understand how to operate at that level, if you don't know how to deal with conflict and resolution and the different personalities, it can start to feel like a job, and so you don't get into an opportunity like this to make it feel like it's the same job you just left. And so it's important that we develop these leaders. I always say that, a herd of sheep led by a lion will always win against a pride of lion led by a sheep. And it's because it's the courage that's being built within the leadership. And so that's why we truly believe in that. We subscribe to that, we live it and believe it.
One of the statements you make, Mr. Roach, on your weekly call is you say you're building a large professional team, a team that you know what the mission is. As a matter of fact, before I go to you, Mr. Robinson, as the union, your team, you have a actual schedule of events all week long, pretty much, throughout the week, where you are training people and introducing Karatbars to people. Can you tell us your schedule briefly, just a bit of the schedule for the union?
Wow, okay. Yeah, so Monday evenings we have live events, in 2 separate locations. Something we're doing weekly. We're also to the point that we're getting ready to start doing a live briefing in Atlanta, Georgia. So that will be coming soon. We have webinars that is done by Mr. Murray, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it's a plethora of events, a Super Saturday this coming Saturday, which is from 10 a.m. 2 p.m. in Greenbelt, Maryland. That will be a host of information where people are not only listening to a presentation, but they will actually get a great form of training. And then we're duplicating that same thing next week in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then back up in New York on June the 1st. And then possibly right there in Houston, Texas in July. So we got a host of things going on, and we just hope that we can get to locations where people can plug in and get that information.
And I don't believe that you mentioned your Wednesday night. You have a team huddle on Wednesday nights before the Freedom Call.
Yeah,
that's a wonderful event. And I just want to talk a little bit about the success of your organization. With the implementations that you have, they're yielding fruits. I mean, March, your team and your new team, reached over $960,000 in sales. And then last month alone, you guys were not guys, it's the whole team. There's ladies on there too. Your team was at 1.5 million.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
That's phenomenal.
You're doing something right. You're doing something incredibly right. And I tell you, just having conversations with you and talking to you, we see why. You're right. You take people from the time they come in, and I love that. And I didn't write it down where you talked about building courage, and you kind of gave different acronyms that you take people through the steps. And that's phenomenal. Now, Mr. Robinson, I don't want to leave you out. Do you have anything you want to add about the development of leaders?
No, not at all. I mean, Mr. Gamble and Mr. Roach, they hit it right on the nail. You know what I mean? And we truly, like I said, just believe in the development, and one of the things that Mr. Roach said that, really stands out to me at all times, a lot of times we're thrusted into that position. You know what I mean? Whether you like it or not. So it's how you handle it. And we believe in training and building up and preparing everyone to be able to handle it as professionally as possible.
Why do you feel it's important? The word professional, we're hearing that a lot. And I've heard it a lot over the past, couple of months, actually, month and a half, that I've been kind of tuning in, paying attention. Why do you feel that's so important? to keep that in people's minds, professional, to
Well,
even for that attitude, professional? Why do you feel that's important?
Well, to me, it just stems back to the fact that we are all in business.
Yes.
We're running a business.
Yeah.
And to me, that's one of the most important attributes to a business is professionalism. And I truly believe you can go far with being professional, even if you may lack in certain, areas and different skill sets and things of that nature. If you have a certain level of professionalism, that'll get you in the door, get you past, a lot of other obstacles that, you may fall, victim to.
Abram, I wanted to just comment on that. Before people actually look at Karatbars, they look at you first. So to me, the union has a certain image, and that image is portrayed as professionalism. So it draws people in to want to, look and see, because they really look at you before they look at Karatbars. So I love that fact that, that professional image is there, constant.
I think Mr. Gambo has a comment he would like to make.
Well, what I was just going to add to that, just a little color to that. So it's not just, ultra professional. We certainly believe in that. But when we say professional, we want to incorporate professionalism in all aspects, meaning we want to have professional events, meetings, presentations, but that also means fun and accountability and dependability. So a lot of things get wrapped up into that. So it's not just a, buttoned up tight professional, but it's just really, the idea is we take it seriously that, again, the brand of the union, we want to bring everybody in. And so Ms. Abram, if you're on another coast and you endorse an event that we're hosting or that we're attending, we want you to rest assured that your prospects are in good hands. The event's going to be run a certain way. It's going to be a certain amount of information. It's going to be run when it says it's going to run. It's going to start on time. It's going to end on time. And it's going to be some great content and a great experience all in between. So professional is not just a one aspect. It's a total 360 encompassing of trying to just really be responsible for other people's prospects, because that's really what it comes down to for us.
Okay, got a question for you. Network marketing forces you to learn new skills. So what new skills would you say you have actually learned?
Throughout the years, right? Throughout the years,
really, not just that. Throughout the years. Now, I remember, Mr. Gambo, you were sharing something with me about what you learned as far as trying to do everything yourself.
I was going to say that's probably the biggest lesson for me because of, and I got to tell a story with it. It's always a story. When I first started in the industry, the magic number was 5, meaning once you had 5 teammates, then your monthly obligation was waived at that point. All right, so cool. So because of my skill set and my circle, I was able to get my 5 people. Right, so we got 5. We started growing, and so those 5 people then, because they're all trying to get 5 people started within their organization, they brought their 5 people also to the table. So I'm speaking to those 5 people. So then those sets of 5 people started speaking to their 5, and so when I looked up, all of a sudden I've got hundreds of people that are trying to dial into me. And to Mr. Roach's point earlier, that's when it starts feeling like a job, when you start ducking the phone calls because it's too many. And, unlike the corporate world where you can say I'm out of office, or, after 5 o'clock, people start calling. Nah, the phones start ringing at 5 o'clock and people will call you, sun up to sundown. And so that's when I realized, like, you have to create a system that gets it off of you. And you can start to put people in a system where it's not predicated on individual talents and strengths. It's really just dependent on the system. And so that's the biggest thing. Because once I learned that, then I could just be hands off, and the system took people to where they needed to be. And, we just all won in the process. So that to me was huge. I stopped trying to learn it all and started learning how to teach other people how to teach other people.
Exactly. Mr. Roach, you want to comment on that?
It's so much that I have learned. Where do I start?
Yeah.
I mean, my father used to tell me, you got 2 ears, 1 mouth, listen twice as much as you're talking. And I was able to really hone that skill in on this industry because by nature, I'm an introvert. I don't like talking to people, right? But I've learned that in order to have some form of success, I got to talk to people. And so I've been able to learn and how to be able to open up, how to have fun. I mean, the dynamics, first of all, number one, right? It's nothing that I did that's so great. I just happened to stand on the shoulders of giants like Mr. Robinson and Mr. Gamble and Dominic Curry and Steve Coates and I hate naming people because then I forget somebody. But all of y'all leaders in the union, shout out to Dominic Curry who just made Elite today. Matter of fact, yes. But understand this: the dynamic between Kevin, Cameron, and myself is very similar to how Napoleon Bonaparte was, and he was the type of person, if you read any of his books or the books about him, he would say, let's burn the ships so the soldiers can't retreat and let's inhabit the land and take it over. So if you were to take that perspective and say, well, I may say, hey, fellas, let's go ahead and burn the ship. If I say that, you won't hear nothing from Kevin Robinson but a splash in the water, right? He's on his way to the island. He's not going to, divert from that. Now, Cameron will be like, hey, Kevin, come on back for a second. Now, fellas, listen, if we inhabit and take this island over and they have no resources for us to live by, it wouldn't be a good idea to burn the ships. Right? So the dynamic works well together,
Yeah. Mr. Kevin Robinson, now you can retort. You have the floor, sir.
Well, one thing I'll say, it's funny, Mr. Roach just talked about being an introvert and, stepping outside of that. And I'm not big on stories myself, but a quick story. A friend of mine was recently telling me about, and I think I made a post about it the other day as well. A friend of mine was just telling me about this, and you guys may have already heard about it. The Myers personality test or quiz. It has like 16 different personality types. And, you answer all these questions and it dives deep into who you are as a person, this, that, and the third. So I was sharing the results with a friend of mine. And as soon as I told her, every personality type, there's like an acronym. So it's INT something or another. So mine was INTJ or something. So as soon as I said the I, she jumps. What do you mean? You're not an introvert. That's a lie. So I just started laughing because I'm like, why would you say that? She said, well, I see you, you're training and you're always at events and you're speaking and you're training at seminars and traveling here, traveling there. And I said, I just understand, like Mr. Roach said, what's necessary for me to get to the next level and accomplish the goals that I want to accomplish. So any of my fears or apprehensions are going to take the back burner in terms of what I want to get to in life. So I just thought that was funny that Mr. Roach said that. But as far as just overall skills in the industry, what I would say, really kind of, I guess, affected me most, I would say the personal growth and self-development perspective. Like I said, I had tremendous success in the industry and tremendous success, in a lot of different things. But I really attribute, my next level growth to coming across a gentleman, roughly 5 years ago. And this gentleman is someone who Mr. Gamble, Mr. Roach is definitely, well aware of. But this gentleman came in my life as a mentor and really emphasized the perspective of personal growth and self-development. So I would say that's been one of the biggest, changes for me, because not only in the industry and becoming even more successful, from a networking perspective, it's helped me to become a much better father, a much better friend, a much better business partner, a much better, mate, You know what I mean? So to me, that's a huge part of this industry, and what, you know, the trainings and things of that nature will do for you, because the personal growth and self-development is something that you just must have. If you want to become successful, you must have that aspect, you know, as a part of your arsenal. So that's what I definitely attribute, you know, my success and what I've learned most and what's affected me.
And I do know, wait, did we hear from everybody on that question, Mrs. Jones?
Yes, yes, we did.
One of the things that Mr. Roach has on his Wednesday call, he reminds people with the book of the month that's being read. And I know what April's was. Now is there a new book for May? Because
Mr. Syke has a great book. Think Big.
Oh, Mr. Sykes' book.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I have that.
The April one. I have the April one. So,
Yeah, I have Mr. Harold Sykes' Think Big. So that's the book for May.
Okay. That's the book for May.
Mr. Roach always, it reminds the team what's the book of the month and encourages, you know, reading of that book of the month, and and I asked him, I said, well, wait a minute. Is there any point where we all talk about the book of the month? I mean, you keep saying I'm reading the book of the month. And he says, well, Miss Abram, if you notice, I am incorporating knowledge from the book of the month in my conversation. And it was like, oh my. And that is so true. If you're reading information that's good information, you are going to talk about it. But Mr. Roach doesn't talk about it as saying, look, in chapter 5 of the 7 successful traits, it's over here, right behind my barrier here. He doesn't say chapter 7 says X, Y, and Z, but in his conversation, he's talking about what chapter 7 says in a very conversational way that you can relate to it. Now that struck me as so interesting. Because Miss Valerie Best, and you know, Time Valerie Best, we all kind of look up to them. They are like our mentors. She would say, you know what, Sheila, I could tell who reads a book and who doesn't. When I talk to them, they never mention the book that they're reading. She goes, you can't help but talk about a book that you're reading. It just comes out in conversation. There's a passage that you read that is gonna come out. So that was so interesting, and I do talk about building successful leaders. That's one of the definite things that the team does is reading a book of the month, and Think Big is it. Okay, we're already on May 6th. I better get going.
Yeah, I should too. I got a quick question for Mr. Amazing though.
Okay.
I've heard you say that this business is not hard work, but heart work. Can you elaborate on that, sir?
Oh, yeah. If you look at it from the perspective of actual work, some may call it hard work, but when you look at it from the transitioning of people's lives, that's when you really feel it in the heart. That's when your passion really comes out for what we do, not just for the money, but what can the money do for you? And so I was speaking with one of Mr. Robinson's new guests he had at the meeting tonight. And he said, you know, I really don't understand, you know, what it is in this whole concept of cryptocurrency, right? And so I pulled him outside and I asked him, I said, well, what do you do for a living? And he says, I'm a youth counselor. I said, wow, you got a lot of patience, don't you? He said, yeah, but I'm running out of patience. I said, so what would you actually do if money wasn't an issue for you? He said, you know what? You're the first person that ever asked me that.
Wow.
And so getting into the hearts and the minds of people is what helps motivate people to make decisions, which helps motivate people to do the things they really want in life. And so that's why I truly believe that this business is more heart work than hard work.
I like that. It is. It's about transforming lives and helping people.
Can we get closing comments, Mrs. Jones? Because my new affiliate orientation starts in 8 minutes.
Okay. Well, I just closing comments, like really quickly, where do you see yourselves in 2 years from now? Quickly. Where do you see yourselves 2 years from now? Who's first?
Well, I'll go first, and then we'll just
Okay.
going from there. So just impacting more and more lives. Staying on the same path. I mean, 2 years will be here in the blink of an eye, just like these first 2 years that
Yes.
sort of gone by. So the path will still be the same. We just hope to have just more and more people that we have direct connections with, and we're helping them reach their goals and objectives. So that's where I'll be in 2 years, still here doing what we do.
I love it. You better be here.
And I'll jump in and echo the same thing. It's all about, the mission over the money. You know what I mean? And the ultimate goal is freedom, and for us to help, change as many lives and families and households as we can around the world. And personally, 2 years, I'm thinking, I'll have no more kids in high school. They'll be in college. You know what I mean? So I'll probably, be able to travel a little more with building, outside of where we, currently are building, and really just expanding the team and the mission of Mr. Harold Seitz, Dr. Harold Seitz, as well as, the union and all the collaborating teams together. And obviously we'll all be a lot more wealthy, in 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
I may not come with the exact textbook answer that you may want to hear, but I'd like to see in the next 2 years that a major women's movement, that now we're interviewing you guys on how great and how wonderful that you all have just grown that women's movement. So that's what I...
You know what? I'm reading the Facebook chat as we're doing Can We Chat Here, and people are saying, what's the book? What was that book of the month from April? Here it is.
That's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yep.
Right over there.
It is by Stephen R. Covey. So that's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey.
Yeah.
Now, that was April. May is now Mr. Harold Seitz' book, but there's nothing wrong with reading 2. Nothing wrong with reading 2.
Absolutely.
So this has been, now Mr. Gamble, did you have any, you did say you're 2 years from now.
Oh yeah.
Yes, he did.
Being the public speaker that you are, what would you like to close this because I hear it, I see it coming. What would you like to say to the large Facebook audience as we close out Can We Can't Chat Here, Mr. Gamble?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for you all for conducting this platform for us and allowing us to contribute our voices to this call. And certainly hats off to our squad here, the union, and Mr. Roach for having his persistence. But I'll also say this to all of the people that are tuning in and watching now, and that'll be watching into the future. Never stop pursuing your goals, and understand that sometimes the road will be paved with gold, and sometimes the road will be paved with challenges. But if there are people that decide to stand behind you, then give them protection. And if there are people that decide to stand beside you, then give them respect. But if it's somebody that decides to stand in front of you, in your way, then you give them hell. No mercy.
Yes.
I like that.
I like that as well.
Maxine Jones, before you do, Ms. Jones, I have to say one thing. We don't single people out, but I want to say a special thanks to 2 special people. One, Dr. Sergio Rizel, for having that 3-way call with Mr. Andre Berstrop, who got in Mr. Amazing and the crew. And 2, I have to say a special thanks to Mr. Al Murray, because he is a trainer extraordinaire.
Oh, we just love Mr. Al Murray.
Mr. Al Murray is phenomenal. Tomorrow night, Gold Rocks, 9 p.m. Eastern time. He also does, that's tomorrow night, just one tomorrow night. So 9 p.m. Eastern time, get all of your prospects on goldrocks.info. Miss Maxine Jones, what happened to your prospect that plugged into Gold Rocks last week?
That was last week. I was talking to someone on LinkedIn, and I said, just jump on this presentation right now. That was Mr. Al Murray, and that gentleman said, oh, I like what he signed up. Yeah, he signed up.
So thank you. Thank
We're
you.
rolling out with him, but he signed up. Just listen to Mr. Al Murray's presentation. Mhm.
And we look forward to more and more training from Mr. Al Murray on a larger scale. So
Absolutely.
I'm going to let you close us out, Mrs. Jones.
Oh, well, it has been our pleasure and our honor to have you gentlemen on. And for those Facebook friends, you have just seen a little snippet of the power of the union. That's just the tip of the iceberg. And you're going to see more from this team and these gentlemen and ladies. They are awesome. And we are just very happy to be a part of the union
Family. Movement. Family.
Which is the
Whole umbrella.
parent of all Googles worldwide, but the union family. We love you guys. We really do. So it's been our pleasure for you to be on Can We Chat Here. We're going to have you back because you have information to share. You are developing awesome leaders, and so we're going to have those folks on as well. I got to quote Miss Crypto Steve. He said that your car should be your mobile university. So yeah, your car should be your mobile university. I listen. So gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. We love you guys, and it's just been wonderful having you here, and we are going to have you back.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, ladies.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye for now.